Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Knowledge Power Days Master Data from Bisnode Dun & Bradstreet. My name is Romana, and I'm responsible for events at Dun & Bradstreet, and I will be your moderator today. Today's topic is the importance of master data as the foundation of digital transformation. And I am very, very happy and proud to welcome the one and only data whisperer, Mr. Scott Taylor. Hi, Scott. It's a pleasure to have you with us.
Hi, Romana. Great to be here.
Before we start, I have some information for you. Today, the webinar, of course, you're all muted, and you can use the chat function for your questions already during the presentation of Scott. I will collect your questions and we will answer them after the presentation. You will receive the video recording and Scott's presentation by email tomorrow. And now I would say, Scott, the stage is yours.
All right, wonderful. Let me show my screen, everybody. We got to do that part. Is that working? Let's see.
The other screen, please.
Whoops. Is that good?
Not yet. It's in the camera. The second screen, I think you mentioned before.
Yeah. All right, everyone, hold on here. We practiced this all day here. Let me see. That one. Is it that one? Still no?
No, it's again in the camera then.
All right. It's it keeps telling me it's the second screen. This is not, you're not seeing the slide?
I can see the slide, but it's again in the camera. It's not the full screen then.
I don't know what the problem is here.
But we can do it this way. We can do it this way. Please, all the participants, just make the camera screen bigger. Then you will see the slides. So it's okay. Scott,
you see me and the camera, or you just see?
Yeah.
All right.
I can see you and your slide.
Okay. All right. I'm sorry about this. Hopefully you can all see it all here. Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer, thrilled and delighted to be part of Dun & Bradstreet's Knowledge Power Days to talk about master data, the most powerful data any organization has. And we're definitely going to hopefully help prove to you that master data is the foundation of digital transformation, a key initiative that all organizations are working on, and I'm sure you are as well. So just a little background on me, Scott Taylor, the Data Whisperer. I'm more about the why than the how. So I'm not going to explain a lot today about how to do master data. I'm going to talk about the why. And if you're out there trying to get funding and support and stakeholder involvement and engagement from your business peers, they don't care about the how until they understand and agree with the why. So if you get 10 minutes with your CEO to explain why master data is so important, again, focus on the why. So I'm a data management advocate, do a lot of data storytelling for data management about the strategic value of what we all do. My career I've been blessed to be working for some of the most iconic data brands on earth, including, I actually spent some time at Dun & Bradstreet. There I am with Patrick. Hi, Patrick, hope you're doing well. When he was at Bisnode, now D&B Europe. And I'm actually responsible for Dun & Bradstreet calling what they do master data. So there's my little claim to fame, if you will. I do data evangelism as a service to help people get excited about this. Also spent some time at Nielsen, WPP, and Kantar. So always working on how do you position this? How do you talk to the business about the importance of this kind of data? I wrote a great book. I think it's a great book. People seem to like it. It's called Telling Your Data Story, Data Storytelling for Data Management. As you can tell right on there, it is 99% buzzword free. And that is what I hope this presentation will be as well. 99% buzzword free. Patrick actually said this to me once early on when we first met, and I shared my positioning of master data. And he said, as you can see in that little speech bubble, it's a new way to talk about what we already know. And that's my purpose here today. That's my intention, to help give you a new way to talk about what you already know. I do tons of content. If you haven't seen it yet, you've got to check out some of my videos. I've got this great fun video with these puppets of data, as I call them, who are talking all about in buzzwords, actually. You can see me with my two friends, the chief dog officer, my CDO, as well as the ITB, who speaks only in buzzwords. You have to take a look at the superhero backstory of master data, that most powerful data. And I also share some actual bad data ideas that you want to avoid. And spoiler alert, in case you haven't noticed already, I don't do a lot of whispering, all right? We save the whispering for the data. We've got to calm data. We've got to tame data if we're in the data management space, and that's what mastering data is all about. So I've been anointed as the data god of data whispering, #1 thought leader in big data, according to Thinkers 360. I hosted a 26.2-hour master data marathon with the folks at ThinkLinkers. I'm also on the who's who of data management, according to Analytica, so I must know what I'm talking about. And I think I'm kind of hardwired for the master data, reference data, metadata, ontology kind of part of the space, because my parents told me as a kid, instead of building with my Lego, I sorted it. So I'm sure some of you sorted your Lego blocks when you were children as well. We need Lego builders, but we also need Lego sorters. You can't build those wonderful, beautiful Lego castles unless you've got everything all sorted out nicely and structured and organized. So there's some definite parallels there. Everything we do today turns to data. And as your business and your business process go from analog to digital, from manual to automated, everything you do turns to data. And enterprises of all sizes are struggling to make sense of it all, because instead of delivering fabulous insights, this data continues to create a tremendous amount of chaos. So how do you manage all that data? To grow your business, to improve your business, to protect your business? You have to start by determining the truth in data before you spend any time deriving meaning out of it. And I'll set that up right up front here. One of the truths about master data, it is truth before meaning. You have to determine the truth first before you derive meaning. Obviously, I'm on the truth team, hence the meaning of my truth hat here. It's not chicken or egg. It is egg and omelet. If you do not have the truth, then you cannot create meaning out of data for your organization. And just to give you some context, this is nothing personal, meaning a lot of people kind of push back and think, oh, well, there is no truth. And what's the meaning of life? That's for your own personal development journey. I'm talking about business here. And in a commercial environment, you can determine truth about your customer identification, about hierarchies, about segmentations, about geographies, about those core dimensions that align and drive almost everything you do with data. I'll take you through more of that, but right up front, determine the truth first before you derive meaning. Really fancy way, you know, people talk about it all the time, GIGO, garbage in, garbage out, rubbish in, rubbish out. Maybe a new way to talk about this is goodness in, goodness out. I like to refer to it as the golden rule of data. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. What you're going to put into data management is what you're going to get out of business intelligence. It's as sure as gravity. What goes up must come down. What goes in must come out. You put garbage into ERP, you get a garbage ERP. You put bad data into CRM, you get missed customer opportunities. You put bad data into FinTech, you'll get a visit from the regulators. Bad data into ML, bad robots. Bad data into BI, BS. Bad data into AI, AS, artificial stupidity. No matter how you slice it or dice it, the golden rule of data prevails. Do unto your data as you would have it do unto you. Now, this data journey that I talked about, again, a lot of people kind of look at it as a very complicated process. I try to simplify things. That's my job on earth here, it seems, in the data business. How do we simplify it? How do we really crystallize it, especially for the business side who gets too confused with all the data talk we have? So I divide the data space into two parts. There is The data management side determining the truth, and then business intelligence deriving meaning under that BI part, artificial intelligence, machine learning, data science, data storytelling, data literacy, visualization, all these important things people do with data. But before you can do those things with data, you have to do things about your data. Master data, reference data, data standards, data governance, data quality, MDM, RDM, PIM, DAM, all those foundational activities that make sure we create trusted content that our organization can use to drive the business. I'll say it 1,000 more times. Truth first, then meaning. Determine the truth, then you can derive meaning. McKinsey published something last year I thought was quite interesting. They were talking about the 6 ways to drive data governance excellence, data management, data stewardship. I feel they're all part of the same topic area. And when you look at these 6, 3 of them, securing top management's attention, integrating with primary transformational themes, and generating excitement about data. To do those, you need to tell a better data story. And when I talk about data storytelling, the whole topic of my book, it's stories about the data, about why managing your data and mastering your data is of strategic importance to the enterprise. The BI side, the analytics side, they get way too much attention as far as I'm concerned, and everything they do is dependent on what we do on the master data side. I'm not competing with them as much as just trying to get in the same room, get in the same conversation. Way too much is management's attention distracted by these bright, shiny, fantastic looking and sounding things that cannot be done at scale unless you've got the foundational data underneath. Common theme I'll keep repeating. Organizations struggle though. What's the value of master data? This is a rather, I think, hilarious poll that Gartner did. I think unintentionally hilarious. They asked organizations, who measures the value of master data? 90% said no, we do not measure it. 10% said other. I'm assuming yes is in other. What kind of poll is this? So in case they're wondering, I got news for Gartner and everybody else. Master data is your most important data. It is the data in charge of your business. It's the most powerful data you've got here on Dun & Bradstreet Knowledge Power Days. It can do more work than any other kind of data you've got in your organization. I challenge anyone to challenge me on that. And I'm happy to take that debate for the master data team. A lot of people refer to it as your business nouns. Customers, vendors, partners, prospects, brands, products, services, the things you make, the parties you sell to and buy from and partner with. It's about your relationships. You don't have relationships, you don't have a business. So the data about those relationships is the most important data you've got. Now, if you look in Wikipedia, they define master data as a single source of common business data used across multiple systems, applications, and processes. Really simple definition. I love it. I put it there. Came from a white paper I did years ago where we defined master data in a really simple, business accessible way. And I love MDM wherever I can find it. I couldn't help pulling off the road and taking a selfie in front of Michelson Door Manufacturing. Ways to talk about master data. And that's the purpose of today, giving you new ways to talk about what you already know. It's a common language. It enables a common language across your organization for those most important parts of your business, customers, relationships, brands, and so on. It's about rows and columns, if you think about it. Imagine the most simplistic way that we display data. Call it a table. People are really good at adding columns. They're not good at aligning rows. Rows are the hard part. Rows are the master data. Columns are analytics. The columns are about the rows. Imagine in just your own experience, taking 2 spreadsheets and trying to align them together. Columns are easy, rows are hard. We got to get the rows right if we want to really leverage the data we've got in the columns. I mentioned it before, truth and meaning. Determine the truth first before you derive meaning. You want to care for your relationships, grow, improve, and protect them. And it's really about making good decisions. That's all business people want to do. But good decisions made on bad data are just bad decisions you don't know about yet. Think about the macro trends going on here, and let's get into what are often the primary transformational themes at an enterprise. So a lot of the macro trends going on, whether you're just jumping into e-commerce because COVID threw you into a situation where you couldn't physically interact with your customers anymore and you had to get your product data up and going. If you're working on know your customer KYC or data privacy regulations in the financial services space. If you've moved your product and you're thinking about going from selling tangible widgets to licensing the value of your widgets as a service, very strategic idea. If you're looking at the Internet of Things, digital transformation, transforming your customer experience, or even working in the fourth industrial revolution, every one of these needs master data to work. Master data and MDM are macro trend agnostic. All of these things require technology. Technology, very simply, hardware, software, data. If you've got data, you need data management, no two ways about it. So even though the attention of top management tends to get distracted by what's in all these bubbles, they can't get there unless they've got MDM and master data. So whatever these bubbles were filled with 5 years ago, wherever we are today, wherever we're going 5 or 10 years from now, it is absolutely still going to need master data and MDM. Master data is macro trend agnostic. You're always going to need it. You're welcome to quote me. So the truth about master data, the success of every digitally transformative customer-facing experience, every as-a-service offering, every foray into e-commerce, every enterprise software implementation is inextricably linked to the successful output of your data management efforts. Really fancy way to just say GIGO. But we've got to use terminology that the business will understand. Take a look at that list of things. Is your company doing anything in digital transformation, e-commerce? Are they implementing some sort of new enterprise software program like a CRM? Get in the room. None of those things work without master data. They all demo beautifully because the data in the demo is perfect. But once you put your own stuff in it, it doesn't work quite as well, does it? Just because you bought a new frying pan doesn't mean you're eating any better until you make sure you understand the ingredients that go into it. Lots of analogies in the space we can leverage. Now, every enterprise has a data story, and the value of your data that you've mastered, the value of MDM, isn't about MDM. It's about the intention of your business. It's about how it supports your business. So you've got to learn your business's business. Every business out there that I've ever run into is trying to provide value to their relationships through their brands at scale. When you think about value, that's how you grow the business. How do you improve the business? How do you protect the business? When you think about scale, scale takes technology. Technology, again, hardware, software, data. That's where your opportunity is. So think about where your business is going and align the work you do in master data and MDM to that business intention. How does what you do in master data enable the strategic intentions of your enterprise? That's how you get support. That's how you get funding. That's how you get involvement, by showing what that content will do for the organization that you are a part of. And there's always a way to find a hook. This is a rather generic statement here, but think about the words you use in your own business. Where does that value come from? What does scale mean to your organization? And when you think about relationships, customer, vendor, partner, prospect, consumer, citizen, patient, client, all the ways you call those parties you work with, the terminology very specific to your sector, but they're all relationships. And that math that I mentioned before is unavoidable. No relationships, no business. And when you think about brands, Every organization has a brand. It could be a product, it could be a service, it could be an offering, it could be a location, a banner, a finished good. It could have materials and ingredients that go into that manufacturing process or that distribution process. Every business is different, but the purpose of every business is very similar, more the same than it is different, by providing value to your relationships through your brands at scale. If your senior leadership agrees with some form of what's in that red box, then you've got to look at the data you've got about your relationships and the data you've got about your brands. How is it? Is it a mess? Probably. Duplicates, confused hierarchies, complicated segmentation, missing geographies. All those basic foundational piece parts have got to be managed for you to be able to deliver on those objectives. Now, when we talk about digital transformation, it can mean a lot of things to a lot of people. And what it means to every organization, though, is you've got more data than you ever had before. You've got to find new ways to manage it that you never thought of before, so your organization can do things it never dreamed of before. I'm going to focus on, instead of the people and the process and the tech, I'm obviously going to focus on the data part of digital transformation, and specifically the master data part. We doing okay? I'm just doing a reality check. I assume we're rolling along fine. So in my work, I've had the fortunate experience to talk to every kind of company at every level of maturity all across the earth. I've had a great career and I'm thrilled with the work I've been able to do. And part of what I try to do is look for the motifs, the themes, the consistency across different kinds of sectors to find the commonality, to help folks like you see that you're not alone in your journey. You're not alone in your struggle. Your problems, as I mentioned, are more the same than they are different when you get to this foundational level. So one way to think about, when I think about digital transformation, is identifying the three phases that every organization goes through to become digitally transformed. And digital transformation, for sure, is a way to deliver value to your relationships through your brands at scale. That first phase is a legacy state, a common situation. You've got multiple silos: sales, marketing, finance, operations, different prevailing systems that support those different departmental activities. Legacy doesn't mean old always. It could mean you just started a new CDP, a customer data platform, in your marketing department yesterday and created yet another version of customer. So legacy state is as much a technology description as it is a strategic, philosophical, and cultural problem. Now, you want to move from a legacy state of multiple silos to being an integrated enterprise and supporting relationship centricity, being relationship centric, putting the most important parts of your business at the center of what you do, both strategically and systematically. You've heard customer 360, product 360, common view, golden view, all those kind of centric circle views of things. That geometry works for me. You've got a circle, you need something in the middle. That's where that master data goes. But the essence of it is you want everybody in your organization to have the right data in the right place, the right time, in the right context, and be able to leverage it for those important business activities. That's when you become an integrated enterprise. It's wonderful to move from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise, but you've got to go further and become part of a trust network through connected ecosystems. How do you interoperate? How do you communicate? How do you integrate with all those other parties that bring your products to market or get the value you're delivering through those brands? Lots of different ways to do that, but that's where we're all going, to be able to seamlessly connect, communicate, and share data across our value chain. Now, the two universal requirements that you need to go from a legacy state to an integrated enterprise to connected ecosystems, if you want to go from silos to centric to networked, you need authenticated identity and a common data structure. Those two things are right in the scope of MDM, right in the scope of master data. And if I can put a plug in for my host here, that's what Dun & Bradstreet does. They provide authenticated identity for the parties that they cover, and they provide a common data structure that allows you to integrate it and aggregate it across your enterprise. Very simple, but very important. Now, the classic challenge that most people deal with, we'll dig into this a little further, is you've got different departments, sales, marketing, finance, operations. You've got these different regions. You might be local, you might be multinational, you might be global, different geographies that you operate in. You might have different go-to-markets. How do you get the stuff you make to the people who get value from it? Is it some sort of beautifully digitally delivered as a service offering over the internet, or do you have to make it in a factory and then ship it on a truck that goes in a train that goes on a boat that hopefully doesn't get stuck in a Suez Canal, that goes on another truck, that goes in a warehouse, that goes in a cart, that goes into somebody's kitchen or home? All these different levels. The more complicated your go-to-market, the more parties involved, and hence the more data about those things that might be more disparate than it needs to be. And then, of course, you've got more and more data coming from third parties. This creates a situation where multiple systems and workflows create disparate data with differing definitions that lack internal standards. I can't see any of you, but I'll bet a bunch of you are just nodding your heads like this. Seems familiar? It is everywhere. I could put this slide in front of a CIO or a CDO at a Fortune 1000 company this afternoon and say, I believe this is your problem. And they would absolutely respond, well, how'd you guess? Because it's everywhere, no matter what business you're in. If you are an enterprise, this is an enterprise situation. So the solution is master data. You can see I simplify things for the business side. Don't do any data modeling off of this chart. But if you want to explain it to your business leaders, you've got to use simple graphics and simple terminology. Not because they don't understand complicated things, but because they don't have time to learn about how you're doing everything. This is the why. Master data is that foundation across all those different silos. Across your verticals, it provides horizontal value. Across all those columns, it's the row. I always draw it on the bottom. I don't draw it on the side. I don't draw it in the middle. I don't draw it on the top. It is the foundation of your business as well as digital transformation. Now, MDM, I know, I've been there. I've talked to a lot of folks. I've seen it. It can be painful process. It can cause pain. A lot of folks I talk to don't use those kind of cute little business euphemisms like, oh, we have a hurdle or we have a challenge. They talk about physical pain. And I'm reminded very early of an anecdote when I was presenting to a large sales organization. And the head of sales got up and he said, Scott, you know, we can slice and dice our data any way we want to. All I have to do is push a button. And this really courageous data person at the end of the table stood up and goes, sir, I'm the button. I bet you're the button in your organization. People just think all they have to do is just push your button and magically the data shows up. It takes a lot of work. There's a lot of kicking and screaming behind closed doors that the business doesn't know about. It can be painful. So I'm going to show you what pain looks like. That's a warning now. This is graphic content. I know a lot of you are working at home. Make sure your kids are not in the room here. It's early here in the US. So later in the day, hopefully you've had your lunch. Watch out. Here it comes. That's it. That's what it looks like. That's the problem. That's the pain. These are from embarrassingly large global organizations who can't figure out what they're doing with Coca-Cola, can't spell Nestle the same way twice, don't know what they're doing with 7-Eleven. I don't know if you noticed, but in the middle there, 7 equals 11, not in base 10. This is that garbage in. This is what keeps us from digitally transforming. You can't get to step 2 unless you fix the step 1. You cannot derive meaning out of this unless you determine the truth around very simple things like how we spell consistently our top customer names. And to show you how out of control and painful it can be, that last column of 7-Eleven, that came from a retail sales organization that I was working with. and we took a look actually at their entire call file. They had a list of stores that they sent their retailer merchandising folks to, and in it they had over 275 different configurations of the 7-Eleven banner name. Lots of creativity in the field, none of it selling product. I think they were probably incentivized to come up with new ways to spell 7-Eleven. Do you have a slide like this? Make one. Show your organization. This is your garbage in. Did they ever search before they created? What a mess. And if you think of the software is going to just fix this on its own, and that's why I'm really a data person, not a software person, and certainly admire what Dun & Bradstreet and folks like them can produce. If you think the software alone is going to fix it, you put this into Excel and you get November 7th. Unless, of course, you're back in the US and you get July 11th. Doesn't work either way. So don't think the software is going to fix it on its own. So how do you structure this? How do you get a hold of this? How do you start to explain to people the importance of what we're trying to do? I think about what I call the 4 C's of master data. If you want to structure an entity, if you want to codify a relationship, if you want to determine the truth in your customer master, you need to have at least these 4 things: a code, a company, a category, and a country. So you have a code, you have a unique identifier, you've got a tax ID, the DUNS number, your own CRM code. There's lots of different identifiers that people use, and they often have to link them all together. But you put a code on a record, it exists in a database. I have a unique code, therefore I am. Then you need a company or some form of parent-child relationship, ship to, build to, plan to, sell to, all the different levels you work at with the parties you interact with. And they're for very simple business use cases, like we're sending a salesperson to the lower left oval. Did we know it was related to the lower right oval? Happens all the time. Then you need a category because you have to know what kind of thing it is. Category is critical for segmentation, market share analysis, targeting. We're really good with this kind of company. We have to find more of this kind of company, so you need that category structure. Now, I haven't looked at any of your data, but every database I've ever looked at has a category called other. Do you have other? I bet you do. I've even seen some that say other. I go, why do you have other? They said, because it's so hard for the salespeople to spell miscellaneous. The only one I saw that didn't have other had an attribute value DK. We asked them what that meant, and they said, don't know. Different form of other. And just because they all start with C, you need country or some form of geography. Geography's got all kinds of granularity. You might have zip code, postal code, city, state, province, sales market, media market, measurement market, all these different configurations of geography. When you think about it, you need these identifiers, you need hierarchy, you need taxonomy, and you need geography, and that lets you know where something is, what it is, who owns it, and that it's unique. Where, what, who, uniqueness. You have that, all sorts of data problems go away. Think about the data problems that would go away if you had that. I'm going to take a Zen moment here. Just wish all your data problems to go away by having these 4 C's. It's possible. It's doable. This is what master data allows you to do. Now, you might call it something different. You might call it an entity, an owner, a sector, and a location. It might be an outlet, banner, channel, region. It might be a product, brand, segment, and market. If it's in the branded goods part of it, it might be an ingredient, supplier, variety, source, a parent, a thing, a parent, a type, a place. In the D&B world, it's a DUNS number, it's linkage, it's SIC classification, and it's ISO standards for geography. But it's uniqueness, it's who it is, it's what it is, it's where it is. The 4 C's, you've got that right. That determines your truth. That enables those rows across the other thousands of attributes you might have on a thing. If it's not unique, you start and stop right there. You've got to start at this point. A lot of people focus on where data ends up. This is where data starts. So structured data works harder than unstructured data. No matter what your data scientists are saying about the glory and huge value in big data is big because it lacks structure, volume, velocity, variety. It's the variety that'll kill you. Once you put structure on data, it's no longer big. You can begin to derive meaning out of it. You can begin to get that value. Don't let anybody tell you any different. And I've had all kinds of debates in LinkedIn with some data science folks about, well, unstructured data is the most valuable data. I go, well, how do you get structure out of it? How do you get value out of it? Well, we put these dynamic contextual tags. Oh, tags. Well, that's a piece of structure, isn't it? The whole reason you're looking at big data is to find out stuff. Find out stuff about what? Relationships and brands, usually the two big domains. So structured data works harder for your business than unstructured data. Get it structured out there. I want to talk now about the 8 ways that people get value out of master data and how it enables so many things across your enterprise. I call these the 8 eights of master data. I challenge again anybody to come up with a 9th one. Hold on until I finish the 8. But I've looked across all these organizations, all these use cases, and I've been able to bucket them in these 8 different ways. The first one is at the pinnacle, relate. You want to build relationships, you want to grow relationships, you want to mitigate the risk of some relationships, you want to stay in compliance of certain relationships, you want to protect your relationships. It's all about relationships. You don't have relationships, you don't have a business. But before you relate, you got to validate. Should we have this relationship? Is it okay? Is it deceptive? Are they bad debt? Did we search before create? Do we have a duplicate? All these different troubles that people suffer from right in the beginning. So before you go too far in a relationship, you got to validate that entity to make sure it is the kind of thing you want to relate to. Once you relate, you want to integrate. Take all these disparate data sources and pull them all together. It could be physically, it could be virtually. I'm not going to tell you how to design it, but certainly nobody wants to use a single source of data anymore as the only thing. They want to integrate it, enrich it, combine it, get more interesting things about that particular entity. You got to do that with integration. Take all those columns and attach them to the same row. Then you want to aggregate. You want to roll stuff up. How many things do we have and what markets are they in and who owns them and what kind are they? Most reporting is built on some form of aggregation. You can use the 4 C's as I talked about: uniqueness, hierarchy, taxonomy, geography. Think about the things in your business that don't involve those 4 things. Almost everything at some dimension, but you want to aggregate and roll stuff up. Your quarterly reports that go to your CEO are all about aggregation, and you want them to trust it. Then you want to interoperate. How do you communicate seamlessly with these third parties? How do you go on a code-to-code basis? How do 2 people speak about data in the same way? How do 2 machines are able to communicate and connect the same way? Interoperability, and only master data allows you to do that. Systems might be different, and what allows systems like different systems to connect is the data that's the same between them. This is where you build that foundation. Validate, integrate, aggregate, interoperate. After that, you want to evaluate. That's where you start to do AI. That's where you start to do BI. That's where you start to do any kind of analysis. Once you have that foundation in place, then you can do that kind of proper analytics that people will trust. Remember, determine that truth first, then you can begin to derive meaning. Once you evaluate, then you can communicate. Think about the words people use in the master data space. Do we speak the same language? Are we on the same page? Do we have a common understanding? Or do you walk into a room and you've got your report and you're saying there's 6 of them, and the person across the table says, no, there's 9, and 3 of them are different, and then you're arguing about the definition of whatever, and before you know it, the meeting's over. Happens all the time. Master data gives you that common language, that ability to communicate across parties. And if you want to have a relationship at the top there, you better learn how to communicate. Just ask anybody you love. Now here's 7/8 here for those of you counting at home, and there's one more that I think is as important as everything else. It is circulate. Data in motion has value. You've got to enable the flow. Data can't be stuck in some silo. It can't be locked in a PDF. It can't be owned by a certain person who only has that data and only shares it with whoever they want to because they have that certain special report. Those days are already over. Data sharing is the thing now. People are looking at ways to move data not only across their organization, but with their business partners. And if you don't have well-aligned, expertly stewarded, expertly governed master data, it will not connect. People won't know. So only master data can move it across that. So these 8/8s here, this is me in action for sure. Love running around on stage. We'll get back to that. But data must be in motion. It has got to move to have value. Now, if these 8/8s help you at all, I've got a whole playlist on YouTube about the 8/8s. There's actually 9 videos. If you like the 8/8s of master data, see if those map to the way you use data as well. I'm always open to a 9th. Haven't found one yet, but this covers all the ways I've determined and seen that people get value out of master data. Now let's go back to these 3 phases again, how master data is the foundation of digital transformation. So if we think about these 3 phases that we talked about, let's kind of graph them across 2 vectors: deeper interoperability and greater value. Now the premise is the deeper you are interoperating, the greater the value you can get out of an activity. So that first phase, that legacy state, multiple silos, by definition, there's very little interoperability. And so by my definition, very little value. Then you move to this integrated enterprise, more interoperability, more value. And then you get to this trust network of connected ecosystems that lives off of interoperability and provides the greatest value. And if you think about it, what you're trying to do is the same thing at higher and higher levels. It's to achieve semantic consistency at bigger and bigger scope. It starts off in that legacy state where you're just trying to integrate and interoperate across methodologies and processes, 2 spreadsheets to bang them together across workflows. Then you go to departments, apps, platforms, enterprises, then across value chains, verticals, ecosystems, entire marketplaces, leveraging and using the same data or links to the same data or have a common understanding about those most important entities in their process. And that enables that interoperability and the universal requirements. Again, a common data structure and authenticated identity for those most important parts of your business: customers, vendors, partners, prospects, brands, services, offerings, assets, the things you make, the people you sell to and buy from and partner with. And that's how you get scale, ladies and gentlemen. That is what scale is built on. And if you don't believe me, think about some of the great examples that are all out there that everybody sees every day: Airbnb and Uber and Netflix and Amazon, those big disruptors. They are all built, every one of the ways the way they deliver value to their relationships through their brands at scale is based on having that highly structured, well-governed, expertly stewarded content underneath. You think Netflix can serve up the new movie they want you to watch if they don't understand and have a structured category around every piece of content that they serve up? Do you think Amazon can deliver from across all those multiple suppliers that whole array of different products to you at the right time, the right place, if they didn't have all that highly structured underneath? Of course not. And there's plenty of examples elsewhere of existing things. The UPC, the G10 is a great example. I use that all the time to explain to my own family what I do. You want to see master data in action? Go to any store across anywhere, and every product, every bottle, can, bar, box, bag, jug of every kind of brand in there got a little UPC, a G10, a barcode on it. bring it up to the front of the store and it goes beep. That little beep, that's authenticated identity. That POS system, no matter who built it, recognizes and knows that product no matter who made it. And attached to that is the price, the promotion, all the category, the geography, the company, those things we talked about already. But it all starts with that uniqueness, with that common code and the power that that brings to entire marketplaces. So master data is the foundation of digital transformation. It provides that semantic consistency. It enables deeper interoperability that creates greater value. So the truth is about master data, wrapping it up here, master data is the most important data any organization has. It's the data in charge of your business. The only pushback I've ever gotten on that are people saying, well, maybe there's a different data that's more important. Nobody's ever given me an example. I'm on your side. Tell people it's the most important data, the most powerful data. You can have it. Works the hardest. Grow, improve, and protect your business with the same data, sometimes with the same record. You must determine the truth first before you derive meaning. I said that enough. Master data is macro trend agnostic. No matter where we were, no matter where we are today, no matter where we're going, we are still going to need it. Take a look at what the big analysts say is the top 10 trends of any year. You look at all of them and say, do those work without data? No. And does that data work without being mastered? No. We're always going to need it. Every enterprise has a story to tell, and that story is about the value of the strategic value of managing your data that helps provide value to the relationships you have through your brands at scale. Structured data works harder than unstructured data. Master data is that foundation of digital transformation, and hopefully I prove that to you. And the business case for master data, people ask for it all the time. I suggest it's the very business you are in. Look at the initiatives that your organization is supporting. Look at the top 5 things your CEO said they want to accomplish this year. Listen for the words that relate to things like relationships. They're not going to talk about data quality. They're certainly not going to talk about master data, reference data, metadata, but they're going to talk about relationships. They're going to talk about brands, and the data about both of those has to be as truthful and as structured as possible. So the business case for master data, the very business you are in. Take a little breath here and we'll take some questions, but please let me help you tell your data story. If you liked any of this, again, my book is available on Amazon as well as at technicspubs.com. If you go to that site, I'll drop it in the chat as well. Use the code Data Whisper. You can save 20%. Thought I'd do a little plug there. Follow me at the very least. If you liked any of this, follow me on LinkedIn. If you put your phone right up to the screen, that QR code will take you right to my LinkedIn profile. Talk about being a structured data guy. And I've got these 50 plus videos on YouTube, the Data Whisperer video channel. Take a look at those. It's everything from cartoons to keynotes, from puppet shows to white papers, across a whole range of different kinds of ways of talking about actually the same thing, because everything I talk about is about the power and value of structured data, master data, of MDM and data management. So subscribe there, follow me, buy the book if you like. Thank you all very much. Remember again, good decisions made on bad data, just bad decisions you don't know about yet. Phew. All right. I'll take a moment here, Ramon. How we doing?
Perfect. Thank you very much, Scott. We have several questions. So the first one is, how would you approach the idea of master data to business leadership who usually doesn't care?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that's the challenge that a lot of us face here. It is to one thing you want to do is avoid your natural tendency to talk about the technical side, to talk about the technical how, to talk even to use the word master data and reference data and metadata. It will just confuse them to a great extent. So you want to start with those initiatives that have some form of relationship, customer, vendor, partner, some form of brand in it, and show how those things need this structured data, need this well-mastered data to happen at scale. So it's tying the work you're doing to how it enables the strategic intention of your enterprise. I mentioned, you're not going to find a CEO who's going to call you into their office and say, we need more master data. No, they're going to say, we need to stop customer churn. We need to shorten our quote to cash process. We need to implement this, one consistent CRM platform across all our disparate divisions. You've got a seat at every one of those tables. They don't always invite you, but you've got to get there and show them there's a master data element in every one of those. And certainly all of those have to do with customer and relationships.
Hmm. Right. Another good question. What is the future of master data? Scott, we have only some minutes left. So
The future, I think the future is starting to is getting help. Now, this might seem a little promotional here, but I believe in this, which is why we're working together. If you've got to go get help to master that data, the future is look at your core competencies. What do you do for a living, and how much of that is really managing your own data? There's a lot of help out there. Obviously, Dun & Bradstreet can help you with a tremendous amount of activity, but data sharing, you don't have to go too far in Gartner these days to see them talk about data sharing, which is really important. Snowflake, these other platforms out there that have a data sharing ability. If you're just selling somebody else, if you're just sharing garbage, the other side isn't going to be able to get any value out of it. So making sure it's structured, integratable, interoperable, I think the future is a higher recognition of master data, more activity leveraging standards, and allowing us to spend more time on adding columns rather than aligning the rows.
Okay. Another one, how do you determine the ROI on master data?
That's a hard one because it's not, there's not a direct ROI. So I always suggest to people, go find the project that's already been supported and show how master data can help that. And they've already, the example I already gave about implementing a CRM program. If you're putting in a customer relationship management software, obviously you've got to have customer data in there, and they've figured out the ROI, the benefits, how this is going to help the business, but they don't always remember there's a data element to it, and that data element is the only way that stuff is going to work. So trying to come up with kind of a master data only use case, or focusing too much on the efficiency play, if this will save 2 cents a record per person those don't go very far. Show how it enables where your company's trying to go, and that's where you get much greater benefit, and that's a much bigger return on investment. So it's a little difficult. It's a consensus sell. There's a cultural element. I know it's hard. That's why I'm trying to help people with different ways to talk about it, but the value is undeniable, and the return on investment is directly linked to the ROI of all those projects.
Another one is, as we do not have a control on the data we receive, how can we ensure it is not GI?
Oh, well, it depends on, that's where you have that validation process. So, I don't want to get too technical because I'm not very technical, but, where are you getting that data from, and has it been validated in some way? Is it structured the right way? I'll tell you, if you go to third parties, and a lot of third parties, and I worked for them, right? Dun & Bradstreet, Nielsen, but a lot of what we try to talk about is creating some form of standard for an enterprise. So if you're getting data from third parties, alternate data is a big topic area these days. Make sure it's structured in a way you can integrate it. Those suppliers should be helping you with the integration. Some of them think you only want to use their data separate from everything else. But who does that anymore? The way you get the most value out of data is to put it into an operational process, an analytical process, get it into production somehow. So having those stage gates somewhere to make sure it's validated, is this the right data? Do I need all of this? Is it about the things that are most important to me? Does it cover my business? So these are the things you want to think about in terms of getting data in. And then obviously the quality side, making sure that there's some sort of quality standards that you've set as well. Those kinds of things help.
Yeah, yeah. We have no more questions left for the moment, but I think, Scott, you showed your LinkedIn profile before. So if anyone has questions after the webinar, get connected with Scott via LinkedIn and he will be happy to help you. So once more, thank you, Scott, for having you. It was a pleasure. As mentioned before, you will get the video recording and the presentation of Scott via email tomorrow. And I would just say thanks for joining and have a great day. See you next time. Bye bye.